Alright, welcome back. So let's start thinking about adding some texture to our scene. Okay, so the textures that I have set up here are, this is a snow texture, we have a wood texture that we're going to apply to the arms, have a very shiny black material that we'll use for the hat, this kind of rough orange material we'll use for the carrot nose, and then this black and dark gray noisy material is what we're going to use for our pieces of coal for the buttons and the eyes. So, we talked at length in the previous set of activities about using bump maps to create the appearance of actual texture in a scene, so we can see that our shaded sphere shows the kind of the look of fallen snow, and same with the carrot nose. It's kind of a rough, I actually just ended up using cellular again because it's such a small piece of geometry that we're really not going to see exactly what these shapes look like. It's just going to render differently and make it look like it's got some roughness to it. So, alright, so let's break this down. So let's start out, let's start with our snow texture. So there's a couple things that are going on in this texture. So we spent time talking in the previous tutorials about the diffuse of a material, and that is the affecting the color of the material. We also talked about the bump mapping, which gives us that illusion of roughness or imperfections in the surface. So those are the two we discussed, but we did not talk about any of the other ones, so we're going to add a few over the course of these tutorials, introduce you to a few more. Self-illumination is a really interesting one. Basically, the material has the ability to create its own light, so if you turn off your light or if you turn your light really far down, the snow or this material will still kind of glow. Actually, if I turn off the map, you'll see how the look of it really changes, and that's because of the bump map we've applied. So if we think about what snow looks like, particularly what snow looks like at night, it's very reflective, and so even when it's dark outside at night, you know, a winter night looks brighter because it reflects ambient light in a way that normal ground does not. So self-illumination is a way that we can kind of replicate that effect and give an additional level of realism to our scene. So let's take a look at the maps that I used for this. So of course our go-to mixing map, our noise, is where I started for our diffuse. So let's take a look at that map, and for you, you're going to be creating a noise map, and then it will be here in your material. Scroll down into our noise parameters, and this, one of the main things I want to draw your attention to is the size of the noise at this level. It's a really large number. So there's a reason for that. Because if you notice, down here in our two colors, I have another noise map nestled in to one of the color channels. So yet another way to just keep adding more and more detail. So let's turn off the sub noise map and take a look at what we have. So I added white, and I added kind of a very pale teal blue icy color, and I didn't touch anything else. And actually, let's back up and let's turn off self-illumination. Let's turn off our bump mapping so we can see exactly how this texture gets built. So you guys will have a large noise size and two colors very similar to this. Alright. So these blue blobs aren't exactly similar to snow. So let's look at adding yet some more detail. So this is what I did. I added a noise map to one of the channels of the noise map. So it's like noise map inception. So if you click on that guy, we're going to go down yet another level, and we're going to take a look and see how the size of the noise at this level is much smaller. And it's the same two colors, except I swapped them, just because, I don't know, it doesn't really make too much of a difference. But at the time, I guess I left it swapped. Some of this is some playing around. So, yeah, like, I personally don't like the look of the turbulence in this situation. I think fractal could work. I think regular could work. This is where give you some creative license here to do a little bit of tweaking on your own in terms of how you exactly want this to look. Same with your noise size. Remember, the noise level of the next one up was 40, and this is 12, so it's like a 4-to-1 ratio of your sizes of the noise, because just to get that look that we want. So again, you can play around with a couple of these values and, you know, see how things look, and if you want to experiment a little bit, feel free. So that is our diffuse map, and that is it. Now, one thing that if you guys want at the very lowest level, an option for you is to add one of the snow images that we got. So you could always go in here, grab a bitmap, and go into our natural materials folder, ice and snow, and, you know, grab one of these and throw that in there and have that mix in there. You know, that gives kind of an interesting effect as well. So again, a little bit of creative license on your part to kind of experiment a tiny bit and get the look you want. So I'm backing back out, going up to the top, and go back to our map list, and let's go down and take a look at the bump map. So I'm going to turn this map on, and I'm going to go into the noise map that I used for our bump mapping. And I did a very similar thing in the bump mapping that I did in the diffuse mapping. If you look, we have some very big noise to start, value of around 70 for my scene, and I'm going to shut that map off so you can see how this is what we start with. So, and again, kind of playing around with the look we want. Regular noise doesn't do too much of anything. Fractal is alright, but turbulence really gives us that kind of harsh detail there. But again, still doesn't look totally realistic yet. The areas that are dark in here are really kind of intense, so I added yet another noise map to this, noise inception again. And this one is slightly lower, so a value of around 40. And looks like I added another one, and that one's really small. So if I, just for ha-has here, just to show you again kind of how everything comes together if we don't nest the noise. So we go from here, turn that map on, and then go in here, turn that map on. And really what that does is just adds that much more detail to those areas of texture to kind of simulate snow that's been blown around and kind of drifts around a little bit. Alright, so that's our bump mapping. So last but not least, we're going to go in and we're going to take a look at the self-illumination. And for snow, I like to use a map called Fall Off. And it's one of our options in our maps area. And when we put Fall Off into our slot, it sort of creates a like a gradient of self-illumination. And there's a couple different ways, there's actually a lot of different ways that we can have this effect happen. So based on whether you're looking at the object we're going to leave it at towards and away for now. And we're also going to switch this to object, which doesn't look like it does much of anything on our little sample sphere, but that's what we want to set it at. We don't want to use the camera, we don't want to use any kind of additional coordinates, we just want the kind of gradient of the illumination to be based on the surface itself, the object, the geometry that we've applied it to. Alright, so that's it. So again, those are the parameters to set, and if you want to do a little tweaking, feel free. But for now, let's go ahead and apply our snow texture to our scene. So we're going to apply it to the plane, we're going to apply it to the 3 snowballs, just like this. And let's give it a quick render through our camera and see how it looks. Alrighty, so there you have it. Not too bad. So we'll leave that at that for now. And then we will, actually this scene actually looks a little harsh because the Omnilight is decent. We'll follow up more on that later. Alright, so snow texture is done for the moment. Before I end this video, I'll just show you real quick the wood texture that I used was really simple. I just grabbed a bitmap for the diffuse color slot, and I just grabbed one of the images in the wood folder. I used this first one. Again, it's up to you. You can grab one of the other ones if you want. And this is a little bit probably excessive because it doesn't really make too much of a difference. I did apply a bump map to it because in the sample sphere you can see it just gives it that slight little look of roughness. It's very subtle, and arguably, considering our geometry for the arms is so narrow and we're not going to be getting close with it with the camera, having the bump map there may not even be worth it in terms of achieving any kind of effect that we can really see. So I'm actually not even going to include the bump map in this. So if you want to do it, you can, but I don't believe, unless you get your camera really close to the snowman during animation, you won't really see the effect of it on there. So I'm going to apply my texture to the arms. Awesome. And I'm going to end this video here, and in the next one we will take a look at the top hat material and the carrot nose material, and also how to get the coal to look like coal. And we're going to use 2 different methods to achieve that. So, see you soon.